Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most, truly ambitious undertakings in all of ancient history. We're talking about a journey that wasn't just about covering thousands of kilometers, but one that literally laid the groundwork for a faith that would go on to reshape the entire world. So, our whole story really kicks off with this one number, 20,000 kilometers. Just let that sink in. That's the estimated distance the Apostle Paul traveled, all in about 20 years, way back in the first century.
And just to put that into perspective for you, that's like traveling halfway around the entire planet. And remember, he did this mostly on foot or by sea. We're talking long before any kind of modern transportation. It's just incredible.
So you have to ask, right? Why? This amazing feat of endurance, it wasn't for exploring new lands or for trade. No, it was all driven by this one single focused mission. A mission that over those 2 decades would completely change the course of early Christianity. And if you look at the historical accounts, like in the book of Acts, it's clear this wasn't just some personal ambition. Paul really understood his mission as a divine calling. You know, it was that deep conviction that fueled his, absolutely relentless journeys all across the Roman Empire.
Okay, so how on earth did he pull this off? Well, his work can basically be broken down into 3 major missionary journeys. And what's cool is that each one started from the same city, Antioch, and followed this really strategic pattern of expansion, always pushing the boundaries of his mission just a little bit further out.
And his strategy was, surprisingly consistent. Whenever he got to a new city, the very first thing he'd do is visit the local synagogue. It just made sense, right? That was the natural hub for the Jewish community. And for Paul, it was the perfect launchpad to start preaching and get into some serious debates. And looking at this, you can really see a clear strategy taking shape. The first journey, that's all about planting a flag, setting up the very first churches in new places. Then the second journey, that's a huge leap. He pushes the mission all the way into Europe for the first time. And the third journey, which was the longest one, that was all about circling back, strengthening these brand new communities. That's why he ended up spending more than 2 years in a major city like Ephesus. All right, so after that third journey, the story takes a really dramatic turn. Paul had always wanted to get to Rome. That was the heart of the entire empire. But his arrival there was not at all what he planned. He didn't arrive as a free missionary. He arrived as a prisoner. His whole mission got turned on its head when he was arrested back in Jerusalem. This timeline really shows you just how long and uncertain this whole period was. Can you imagine? You're detained for 2 full years in Caesarea, just waiting. Then you finally make this dangerous sea voyage to Rome, a trip that, by the way, included a crazy shipwreck. And when you get there, you're not even thrown in a normal prison. You're put under house arrest. It's this weird legal limbo where he had to wait even longer for a trial. But here's the crazy part. Being confined like that, it didn't stop his mission. Not at all. In fact, in one of history's great ironies, this time of imprisonment turned out to be one of his most productive and influential periods ever. So this created this really strange new reality for Paul. On one hand, he was legally a prisoner. He even talks about himself as being in chains. But on the other hand, his rented house in Rome basically became this unlikely mission headquarters. He could have people over, he could debate, and most importantly, he could write. And it was right there, from that house arrest, that he wrote these 4 incredible letters. We know them today as the prison epistles. He sent them out to churches and people all over the empire, and they contain some of his deepest, most profound ideas. They've really become cornerstones of the Christian faith. But wait, the story doesn't even end there with his house arrest in Rome. There's still one final and pretty dramatic chapter left in this incredible journey. So after all that waiting, 2 or 3 years of it, his case just gets dismissed. You're probably wondering why, right? Well, it's because the people who accused him back in Jerusalem never even bothered to show up in Rome to press charges. With nobody there to testify against him, the authorities basically had to just let him go. And what does he do? As a free man once again, he immediately gets back to it. He resumes his travels. probably visiting communities in Macedonia and Greece. And it was during this short burst of freedom that he wrote his final letters, what we call the pastoral epistles, where he's giving advice on church leadership and how to structure things. But tragically, this freedom didn't last long at all. He got caught up in the great and terrible persecution of Christians under Emperor Nero. He was arrested again, dragged back to Rome, and this time he was put in a real prison, not house arrest.
And it was there, around the year 67 or 68 AD, that his incredible 20-year mission finally came to an end. The long-standing tradition is that he was executed by the Roman authorities, becoming a martyr for the very faith he had traveled so incredibly far to spread.
So this all leaves us with a really big question about his legacy, doesn't it? After 20,000 kilometers, what really defines the journey? Is it the distance he covered, or is it the ideas he left behind? Because while his physical journey may have ended in a Roman prison, you could say the journey of his ideas, well, that was just getting started.